will never see the light of day as a free man ever again.
We saw it all when Chamoy Thipyaso was given a sentence worth 141,078 years for being involved in a pyramid scheme that defrauded more than 16,000 Thais. But since her sentence, there's no other that comes anywhere close to this. However, there are still quite a number of sentences that will definitely surprise you. And for today's video, we'll be looking at 20 insane longest prison sentences ever in 2022. 20. Darl Brooks. During the annual Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin, on November 21, 2021, Darl E. Brooks Jr., a 39-year-old man, drove a red 2010 Ford Escape SUV through barricades, causing devastation. Moving at approximately 40 miles per hour, he deliberately targeted the crowd, resulting in the fatalities of 6 people and injuring 62 others. An eyewitness tagged him as calm and composed during the time of the incident, which means he knew exactly what he was doing. Videos of the tragic incident were captured by attendees and streamed on social media, revealing the horrifying scene. Despite attempts to stop the vehicle by a police officer, Brooks continued his rampage until another officer fired his gun. Following his arrest, Brooks pleaded not guilty to 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide and 71 additional charges. He represented himself during the trial, presenting pseudo-legal arguments from the sovereign citizen movement, causing disruptions in the courtroom. Nevertheless, on October 26, 2022, a jury found him guilty on all 76 charges. Subsequently, on November 16, 2022, Darl Brooks Jr. received a chilling sentence of 6 consecutive life terms without parole, along with an astonishing additional sentence of 763 years and 3 months, all to be served consecutively if he survives that long. 19. George Wagner IV. George Wagner IV, found guilty of 8 aggravated homicide charges in the infamous 2016 Pike County massacre, has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Judge Randy Deering delivered 8 consecutive life terms along with an additional 121 years for other charges. The ruling by Judge Deering ensures that Wagner will never be eligible for parole, a decision influenced by his brother and mother testifying against him, leading to the removal of the death penalty as an option. The courtroom was filled with intense emotions as the victims' relatives expressed their feelings through impactful statements. Despite maintaining his innocence, Wagner faced a guilty verdict on all 22 charges, including the 8 counts of aggravated homicide. This protracted trial became one of Ohio's most protracted and costly legal battles, with expenses reaching nearly $4 million, all funded by the state. Governor Mike DeWine views this sentencing as a crucial step towards achieving justice for the victims and their grieving families. 18. The dating app incident. After meeting on an online dating app, Emily Todd, a 2012 graduate of Ansonia High School, entered a relationship with Brandon Roberts, a 25-year-old therapist. However, their relationship ended, and on December 8, 2018, Roberts lured her to a boat ramp in Bridgeport, where he took her life and stole her car. For Emily Todd's family, the following 3 years were filled with anguish and anticipation for justice. Finally, during the verdict announcement, there was a collective gasp from the family as the 12-member jury declared Brandon Roberts guilty of homicide with a firearm, felony homicide, first-degree robbery, and carrying a pistol without a permit. Throughout the proceedings, Roberts remained stoic, standing between his lawyers without showing any emotion. State Superior Court Judge Alex Hernandez subsequently sentenced the 29-year-old Roberts to a total of 60 years for homicide, 15 years for first-degree robbery with a deadly weapon, and 5 years for carrying a pistol without a permit. The sentences will run concurrently, as specified by the Fairfield Judicial District's clerk's office. The long-awaited justice provided some closure for Emily Todd's grieving family, although I think he could have deserved a longer sentence. 17. Sha D Rose's sentence. In a chilling case of a double homicide, Sha D Rose has been sentenced to 66 years in prison for taking the lives of Steve and Minna Schulz, both 51 years old, in August of 2022. The gruesome discovery took place near their home on Shady Glen Avenue in Olalla, Washington. The tragic incident came to light when the couple's daughter visited their home and stumbled upon a scene of horror, signs of forced entry, and a trail of blood. Lieutenant Ken Dickinson expressed the unimaginable pain of such a discovery. Following the heinous act, investigators from the Kitsap Sheriff's Office received tips from the public, providing insights into Rose's whereabouts on August 21, 2022. He was spotted driving a stolen vehicle early in the morning in Mason County, leading to a brief pursuit by local deputies, which was called off due to the danger posed by his driving. A coordinated effort involving Kitsap, Pierce, and Mason County Sheriff's Offices, alongside Tacoma Police, resulted in Rose's capture that night. He was apprehended by Tacoma Police at a gas station on 74th and South Tacoma Way. Subsequently, on March 8, 2022, a judge adhered to the recommended plea agreement and sentenced Rose to nearly 66 years behind bars. The agreement also includes a lifetime no-contact order to protect the couple's daughter from any further harm. Before we move on with today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to see more awesome videos like these. 16. Brandon Guzman. Brandon Guzman, convicted in the homicide of 22-year-old Justin Laravie, received a serious sentence of 70 years in prison for the fatal shooting at a West Side apartment in 2019. The verdict came after a week-long trial, with the jury taking just 2 hours to deliver a guilty verdict, as reported by the Bexar County District Attorney's Office. The tragic incident occurred on July 29, 2019, when Guzman, then 19, entered Laravie's apartment and took his life. Additionally, he faced an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon charge for shooting another man twice. The motive behind the shooting remains unknown, but after the act, Guzman ransacked the apartment. Prior to this conviction, Guzman had previous records for unlawful carrying of a weapon and unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. Currently, 3 other aggravated assault cases against him are still pending. Reflecting on the senseless act, Bexar County Criminal District Attorney Joe Gonzalez lamented that Justin Laravie was a young man with a bright future ahead of him, which was tragically cut short by Guzman's actions, leading to his own downfall. The sentence imposed upon Guzman demands that he serves at least 30 years in prison before becoming eligible for parole. 15. Richard Debate's sentence for homicide. Richard Debate, an Ellington man convicted for taking his wife's life, has finally received a stern sentence. The judge sentenced him to a total of 65 years in prison, with no possibility of parole. This includes 60 years for homicide and an additional 5 years for tampering with evidence. He was also given a concurrent 1-year sentence for making a false statement to authorities. The guilty verdict was reached back in May after a 5-week trial and second-day deliberations. Evidence from Connie Debate's Fitbit activity tracker played a significant role in building the case against him. Prosecutors argued that Debate had plotted to eliminate his wife and stage a home invasion as his life was falling apart due to an extramarital affair. Throughout the trial, Debate maintained his innocence, testifying that a masked man had ended his wife's life and tied him up. However, evidence from her Fitbit contradicted his account, showing Connie's movement an hour after he claimed she passed away. Following the sentencing, Debate's defense team announced their intention to appeal the verdict. The emotional impact of the case was evident as Connie's friends and family gathered outside the courthouse, seeking closure and justice for her tragic death. The serious sentence imposed justifies the severity of the crime and the tragic consequences of Debate's actions. 14. William Devon Howell. William Devon Howell, an American serial offender, received one of the most severe sentences in Connecticut's history for his heinous crimes. In 2003, Howell took the lives of 7 women, making him one of the state's most prolific serial offenders. While already serving a 15-year prison sentence for manslaughter, he was sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences. The cases of the 7 victims remained unsolved until Howell became a suspect in Arizmendi's disappearance in 2004. Police discovered blood evidence in Howell's van, and DNA analysis confirmed the presence of Arizmendi's blood. Further investigations led to the recovery of remains belonging to the other victims. During the trial, Howell entered an Alford plea to first-degree manslaughter, not admitting guilt but acknowledging the evidence against him. Despite maintaining his innocence, he received a 15-year sentence for manslaughter before the additional homicide charges. In a chilling confession to his cellmate, Howell admitted to being a sick ripper, referring to the monster inside him. He revealed disturbing details about his actions, including keeping one victim's body in his van for weeks and mutilating her remains. Ultimately, on November 17, 2017, Howell received 6 consecutive life sentences after pleading guilty to the crimes, and 1 life sentence in Connecticut equals 60, making it a total of 360 years, an all-around sentence. And although he felt deserving of the death penalty, it had been abolished in Connecticut since 2015. 13. Maxim Gelman. Maxim Gelman, an American convicted serial criminal, received a staggering sentence on January 18, 2012, for his horrifying crimes. The sentencing took place in the New York Supreme Court, Kings County, where Gelman's unruly behavior, including laughing and yelling at the judge and victims' families, was noted. New York State Supreme Court Justice Vincent Del Guidice handed down a sentence of 200 years in prison, condemning Gelman as a violent sociopath. The extensive term was a consequence of Gelman's merciless killing spree, which resulted in 4 fatalities and 5 injuries, leaving a trail of devastation in his wake. Throughout the trial, Gelman showed little remorse for his heinous actions, claiming he had been set up during his arraignment. His disturbing behavior during the court proceedings further exemplified his dangerous and antisocial tendencies. Cameras were permitted in the courtroom during the sentencing, capturing Gelman's reaction, which was widely distributed to the public in hopes of reassuring citizens that such a madman would not be a threat ever again. 12. Erica Jenkins. Erica Jenkins, the sister of notorious criminal Nico Jenkins, has had her robbery convictions and prison sentence upheld by the Nebraska Supreme Court. She was found guilty of luring Juan Garay Pina and George K. Gigaruiz to an Omaha park in 2013, where they were robbed before Nico Jenkins took their lives. Erica received a severe sentence of 60 to 100 years for her role in the 2 robberies. In her appeal, Erica Jenkins raised various arguments, including the claim that the acquisition of her cell phone records by prosecutors constituted an unconstitutional search. However, the High Court dismissed all her claims, finding no merit in any of them. Apart from her robbery convictions, Erica Jenkins is already serving a life sentence for aiding her brother in eliminating another victim, Curtis Bradford. The Jenkins family, based in Omaha, is infamous for their involvement in some of the coldest homicides in Nebraska's history, leaving people around the world baffled. The criminal activity appears to run in their bloodline, with numerous family members having a history of felonies. 11. Joseph James O'Connor, the hacker. Joseph James O'Connor, a 23-year-old British man known as Plugwalk Joe, pleaded guilty to a massive hacking operation targeting over 100 Twitter accounts, including those of prominent figures like Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Kim Kardashian, and Elon Musk. The hacking, which took place in July 2020, has been described as one of the largest hacks in social media history. In addition to his role in the hacking, O'Connor pleaded guilty to cyberstalking and other related schemes. Extradited from Spain on April 26, he now faces charges that could lead to a maximum sentence of more than 70 years in prison. The U.S. Department of Justice's Criminal Division characterized O'Connor's actions as flagrant and malicious, with significant impacts on multiple individuals' lives. His harassment, threats, and extortion caused substantial emotional harm to his victims. To maintain anonymity, O'Connor used computer techniques to hide behind stealth accounts and aliases from outside the United States. He employed social engineering tricks to gain access to the Twitter accounts, sending tweets asking followers to send Bitcoin to a specific account with promises of doubling their money. Apart from the Twitter hack, O'Connor also admitted to other hacking crimes, including gaining unauthorized access to a high-profile TikTok account. Additionally, the U.S. Justice Department revealed that he used technology to stalk a minor. The severity of his crimes has led to serious charges and the possibility of an extensive prison sentence. Ryan Stone, 30 years old at the time of the crime, was found guilty of 11 felonies, including attempted manslaughter and first-degree assault, for injuring a police officer who tried to stop him during the pursuit. The crime spree began in Longmont, where Stone stole a sport utility vehicle with a young boy inside, leading police on a high-speed chase at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour. Throughout the chase, Stone caused multiple collisions, including one where he crashed the stolen SUV into a minivan, leaving the boy behind. He then carjacked another vehicle and continued fleeing until crashing again near Denver International Airport, where he stole a third vehicle. During the foot chase that followed the third crash, Stone's actions led to injuries sustained by a Colorado State Patrol trooper, Bellman He. Stone's lack of remorse was evident in phone calls made from jail, where he blamed the trooper for his injuries. The gravity of his crimes and their impact on numerous lives led to a lengthy sentence, ensuring Stone's incarceration until 2085 before he would be eligible for parole. 9. The man who called the judge a coward. Stephen Burns, a 25-year-old convicted robber, has been sentenced to 70 years in the Department of Corrections for his involvement in a violent burglary in Tippecanoe County. A jury found him guilty of several charges, including burglary with a weapon, robbery causing injury, and criminal confinement. In August, Burns, along with 2 other men, targeted an elderly couple's home on North 28th Street. They threatened and assaulted the homeowners, with Burns hitting the husband with a gun. They fled with cash, credit cards, and valuables, but the stolen items were recovered after a police standoff on 30th Street. During his sentencing, Burns displayed disrespectful behavior, calling Judge Stephen Meyer a coward, resulting in an additional 180 days in prison. He also refused to sign a no-contact order for the victims, leading the judge to issue a separate order prohibiting him from contacting them. Burns' actions during the crime and in court contributed to the severity of his sentence, ensuring that he will spend several decades behind bars for his violent and harmful actions against the elderly couple. 8. Antoine Suggs. The culprit, aged 39, has been sentenced to more than 100 years in prison for the 2021 shooting, which claimed the lives of 4 people in St. Paul. He was found guilty of all 4 counts of second-degree homicide, with each count carrying a maximum penalty of 40 years in prison. On the day of his trial, Ramsey County Judge Gabel Harris sentenced Suggs to more than 25 years on each count, totaling over 103 years, 1,244 months. The bodies of the victims were found in an SUV dumped in a cornfield in Sheridan, Wisconsin. Investigators used cell phone data to determine that Suggs was near the crime scene, the White Squirrel Bar in St. Paul, when the crimes occurred between 3:30 a.m. and 3:48 a.m. After the crimes, Suggs met his father, Darren Osborne, also known as Mick Wright, and the 2 traveled to Wisconsin in separate vehicles. Osborne was charged with aiding an offender and received a 5-year prison sentence after pleading guilty. Suggs was arrested in Arizona after surrendering to police in Gilbert a few days after the shooting. During the sentencing, several victim impact statements were read, and Suggs maintained he acted in self-defense. Judge Harris decided to have Suggs serve the sentences consecutively due to his lack of remorse and attempts to shift blame onto others, ensuring he takes full responsibility for his actions. 7. Oner Kopek. In 2013, Oner, Kopek, and 11 other hackers were convicted of fraudulent schemes, specifically using phishing attacks to obtain sensitive information from cardholders. The hacker created fake interfaces resembling banking websites to trick victims into providing their card information. As a result, 43 cardholders reported losing money from their accounts. Kopek was initially sentenced to 199 years, 7 months, and 10 days in prison. However, the cybercriminal's crimes did not stop there, and additional cases were uncovered, leading to more complaints from victims. Following a retrial, Kopek received an additional 135 years in prison, resulting in a staggering total sentence of 334 years. This sentence marks a record for a hacker involved in cybercrime, as penalties for such offenses typically do not exceed 20 years. The severity of Kopek's sentence reflects the increasing seriousness with which authorities worldwide are treating cybercrime, especially phishing attacks, which pose significant risks to individuals' financial security. As such attacks become more prevalent, stricter penalties are being imposed to deter cybercriminals and protect potential victims from falling prey to these scams. 6. Lonnie James Pebble. Colorado man Lonnie James Pebble has been sentenced to 736 years in prison by a judge for his 2012 Independence Day shootout with police officers and sheriff's deputies in Castle Rock. During the incident, Pebble fired nearly 70 bullets from an AK-47 at 27 officers, but fortunately did not hit anyone. A SWAT team was called in, and after a 7-hour search, Pebble was arrested at another location. Pebble's case went to trial, and he was found guilty of 46 criminal charges, including 15 counts of attempted first-degree homicide, 12 counts of first-degree assault, 17 counts of reckless endangerment, 1 count of criminal mischief, and 1 count of being reckless with a gun. During sentencing, Judge Paul King ordered that the sentences for each count be served consecutively rather than concurrently. Sheriff Tony Spurlock referred to Pebble as a calculating, dangerous criminal who showed no remorse or value for human life. He expressed relief that Pebble would no longer pose a threat to the community. Castle Rock Police Department Chief Jack Colley expressed satisfaction with the justice served, stating that Pebble, a convicted felon, will be held accountable for his actions and no longer endanger the lives of law-abiding citizens in the neighborhood. 5. Nooki Bull. At the age of 23, Nooki Bull has been sentenced to spend 20 to 70 years in the Department of Corrections after pleading guilty to second-degree homicide for the passing of Marcus Olmsted. In December 2018, Bull drove to Olmsted's home and shot him with a crossbow bolt, leading to Olmsted's death. The case has been in the court system for 32 months, and Bull entered a guilty plea on the lesser charge of second-degree homicide after consulting with the Olmsted family, providing them with certainty of a conviction and a chance to heal. During the sentencing hearing, Robert Olmsted, Marcus' father, emotionally described the night his son passed away, expressing the lasting impact of the tragic event on their family. Bull also addressed the court, apologizing to the Olmsted family for his actions and expressing remorse. Muskegon County Circuit Judge Annette Smedley imposed a 20 to 70-year sentence, making Bull eligible for parole consideration at the age of 40. The sentence comes with 973 days of credit for the time Bull has spent in the Muskegon County Jail. The guilty plea and the severity of the crime led to a substantial prison sentence for Bull's actions that took the life of Marcus Olmsted, a young man with a promising future ahead of him. 4. James Holmes. An American mass shooter, James Egan Holmes, is known for the 2012 Aurora, Colorado shooting, where he claimed the lives of 12 people and injured 70 others at a movie theater. He had no prior criminal record before the shooting. Holmes booby-trapped his apartment with explosives before the shooting, which was later defused. After his arrest, he entered a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity, and his trial began in April 2015. On August 26, 2015, Judge Carlos A. Samuel sentenced Holmes to 12 consecutive life sentences, plus 3,318 years without parole, as the jury spared him the death penalty by a single vote. The judge emphasized that Holmes would never set foot in a free society again, ensuring that he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. The sentencing reflects the severity of the crimes committed and the lasting impact on the victims and their families, while also recognizing the need to prevent any chance of Holmes being released back into society. 3. Scott Kogi. Scott Kogi, a New Jersey man, was sentenced to 150 years in prison after being convicted of 4 counts of first-degree homicide for the New Year's Eve massacre in 2017. He took the lives of his mother, father, sister, and a companion of his grandfather's in their Long Branch house. The shooting involved 14 rounds from a semi-automatic rifle, leaving immeasurable harm to the victims' loved ones. Monmouth County Assistant Prosecutor Sean Brennan described the acts as evil, stating that Kogi knew exactly what he was doing and took their lives because he could and wanted to. The judge emphasized the magnitude of the crime and ruled that Kogi would not be eligible for parole until 127 years and 6 months into his sentence, effectively ensuring that he would never be released. During the trial, Kogi's defense attorney argued that he was mentally ill, seeking a sentence of only 30 years, but the court found him guilty of the crimes committed. Kogi's mental state was a focal point during the trial, but he was ultimately convicted. Despite the mental illness defense, the court held him accountable for his actions, deeming him responsible for the cold-blooded crimes. 2. San Antonio man sentenced to 50 years. Zion Talavera, a 22-year-old man from San Antonio, was involved in a string of aggravated robberies in 2019, during which he and another man severely injured 58-year-old store owner Jemunu Gumara Shulich. The victim fought for his life in the hospital for over 500 days, but tragically succumbed to his injuries. The incident led to the loss of everything for the victim's common-law wife, Linda Lopes, who spoke in court about the devastating impact on their life. Talavera, who was 18 at the time of the crimes, faced capital homicide charges following the victim's death. However, he reached a plea deal and was sentenced to 50 years in prison for the lesser charge of homicide. He had previously received a 20-year sentence for aggravated robbery, and both sentences will run concurrently. Additionally, Talavera will be required to pay over $2 million in restitution. Talavera must serve half of his sentence before being eligible for parole. His co-defendant, Armando Narvaez, also took a plea deal in the case and was scheduled to be sentenced on October 13. The plea deal allowed the case to conclude without going to trial, sparing the victim's family the emotional toll of a lengthy court process. 1. Nicholas Cruz. Born on September 24, Nicholas Cruz, 1998, experienced a troubled upbringing with a violent felon and substance-addicted mother. He was put in an orphanage and later adopted by Roger and Linda Cruz, who both passed away, leaving him orphaned. Before the shooting, he lived with relatives and friends. Cruz was a member of the Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps and had received academic awards. However, he exhibited anger management issues and made disturbing remarks about guns and violence. In the tragic incident, Cruz injured and claimed the lives of multiple people at his former school. He pleaded guilty to all charges and apologized for his crimes. The prosecution sought the death penalty, leading to a lengthy trial that eventually began in July 2022. A jury found him eligible for the death penalty, but couldn't agree on its imposition, resulting in a recommendation for life imprisonment without parole. On November 2, 2022, in accordance with Florida law and the jury's recommendation, Cruz was sentenced to life without parole. This decision was reached after the death penalty recommendation was not imposed, partly due to a bill signed by Governor DeSantis that altered the requirement for the death penalty. The trial faced delays, including those caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, and ultimately resulted in a life sentence for the heinous crimes committed by Cruz. I could go on and on about more of these insane sentences, but that will be all for today's 20 insanely longest prison sentences ever in 2022. Which one of them did you find the most shocking? Let us know in the comments section. Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on the screen right now. See you next time.